Well, I'm now talking to Aapo Markkanen from Machina Research. Aapo, as an industry analyst, how do you perceive the relationship between public and private communications networks? And as time moves forward, will there be a will there be space for both, or will we gravitate towards one or the other?
Really, the important point to remember in this context is this IoT as such is very diverse, and it comprises very vast variety of different applications. All have their different communication needs. So I think that kind of backdrop makes a very strong case for kind of having both models available. So on one hand, you have this kind of public, nationwide, even multinational IoT networks, but on the other hand, there has to be enough flexibility to enable also the private networks, which like individual enterprises may deploy to cover their campus or like a shopping mall or let's say mining site, for example. So I think both will be needed eventually.
Okay. So how about the role of spectrum and spectrum licensing? You previously argued that unlicensed spectrum is critical for the IoT. Can you expand on that a little?
Yeah, I think what makes spectrum very critical and how spectrum is being licensed for the needs of IoT is to me it's about the barriers to entry. So if all of the available radio spectrum is allocated to licensed use, then that obviously makes everything very dependent on the spectrum holders, which I think at the end of the day would be bad for the innovation. So I think I hope, and I would advise the telecoms regulators who are responsible for licensing to to retain this so-called ISM band. So the unlicensed spectrum is now being used for IoT networks to keep that like relatively liberal and allocating of spectrum for those uses. Since I think that allows enough flexibility for deploying networks and allows new market entrants to contest the incumbents. Those are very important. I think one big advantage that the licensing model has is that it can, since you own the spectrum, you will be able to provide more robust quality of service. But I mean, for applications that don't necessarily need high levels of quality of service, then I think you can do very versatile things in the unlicensed bands. So I hope that there will be scope for deploying both models in the future.
Can you see the telcos taking more interest in an unlicensed spectrum?
Yes, I think it's also like telcos are trying to expand their offerings a little. So I think a good example is, for example, that the number of mobile operators are experimenting with LoRa now. So they're deploying the LoRa networks in unlicensed bands.
Yes.
And going forward, they probably will then deploy narrowband IoT and 3GPP standards in licensed bands. So I mean, they probably will do both, like operate them in parallel.
Okay. Well, going beyond the network layer, what other key technology trends are you seeing or expecting to emerge in the IoT context?
I think the first one to mention is probably the more extensive use of analytics, especially enabled by machine learning in the IoT context.
Yep.
So that is certainly a very visible trend. Second, I think that there's this notion that more of the intelligence, including analytics, has to happen closer to the source of data, so at the network's edge, rather than exclusively in the data center and on the enterprise level. So there's different innovations around edge computing, fog computing. They are becoming quite prominent. Third, I would maybe name security. So I think all the security propositions that traditionally have been addressing kind of normal enterprise IT security, they're evolving to accommodate different needs of IoT.
Yes.
So that's something that will help enterprises to deploy more secure IoT products and services, is really the expected availability of IoT specific security technologies.
Absolutely key, isn't it? Yes. Thinking about the players in the IoT, are there any companies or organizations or bodies that you would like to see playing a bigger role in the development of the IoT?
I think on the supply side, as a stakeholder, I would probably pick system integrators. I think they will be very crucial for the evolution of especially the enterprise and industrial IoT, where the solutions normally they consist of equipment from multiple vendors deployed at different times, big legacy issues and retrofit problems. So that's a very, very difficult kind of issue to tackle.
Yes.
By the enterprise just themselves. So I would throw the ball to the system integrators that they need to get more savvy about IoT and start acquiring also like vertical expertise. Since they come normally from this kind of classical IT background, IT services, whereas these issues that they will be facing in industrial Internet of Things, that's mostly the classical operational technologies, so OT. And the expertise on that side resides normally in much smaller companies. It's all kind of vertically and regionally inclined as well. So it's also somehow for the system integrators to expand their portfolios sufficiently, that will be a big challenge.
They need to stitch this together, basically.
Yes, they need to have a good rethink about the traditional way of doing things. Then, so that's on the supply side. On the demand side, I would maybe highlight the insurance companies. I'm quite intrigued about the possibilities that IoT will offer, especially to the insurance sector. Since Internet of Things at the end of the day is about quantifying things that have been unquantifiable traditionally.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it can be very transformative business model of insurance firms, and I could totally see them becoming, for example, a prominent channel for wearable technologies or smart home products, on start assuming a kind of significant role in the ways that enterprises manage their supply chains and so forth. Wherever there's substantial risk that needs to be quantified through IoT devices, and that's sort of the case for insurers.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that, Markkanen.
Thank you very much, Vince.